school year. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch things up and kind of stand over here for this meeting to try to not block anybody over there. So we're going to skip through this front here because it's pretty much repetitive. We're going to dive right into it. So our budget summary for next year, our capital component is up to $11.7 million, administration 9.8, and our program component will climb from $93.1 million to $94.9 million. To give us a full budget presented to the voters, $116,600,000. It would be a 1.96 proposed tax levy increase for next year. If you will remember, our tax cap is 4.44, so we are going well below the tax cap and leaving a significant money on the table as a benefit to the taxpayers of the district. That would bring us to a proposed budget-to-budget increase of 3.92% for next year. This is the budget broken down into the three components. Program, 82% of our budget, capital, 10%, and our administrative component, 8%. Here's the line-by-line breakdown. One of the things you'll note here on the capital component slide is at the bottom we are showing a significant increase, $2 million. I'll just bring your attention up just above that to the interfund transfer to the capital fund. Last year was $390,000 to replace the roof repair at Walden Elementary that was desperately needed. We are hopeful that work will be done this summer. Next year is going up to $1.88 million. What makes up that $1.88 million is we are proposing, and I'll show you here in a couple slides, to replace the stadium scoreboard down behind the high school, as well as the front entrance here to central office. This we call it a storefront system, is well past its useful life and is actually rotting a hole through, as well as a $1.5 million transfer that has no tax impact. This is simply coming from what is an unassigned fund balance. We are transferring it to the capital fund to decrease borrowing that is needed for the 2021 voter-approved capital project. So this is obviously a result of us being over the 4% limit last year. We had to present a corrective action plan to the state. We said that we would take that into consideration when we build the budget. We've worked with our fiscal advisors and our accountants on the best way to do that, and we've determined that the best recommendation that we can present is to transfer to the capital fund, lower our borrowing that would be needed, and that would generate a cost savings to the taxpayers of approximately $400,000. So that is what is leading the big increase here on this line. Now we're going to shift to the administrative component. Not much to really talk about here. The next slide, you'll see we have a new line this year for diversity recruitment, kind of in the upper third. $20,000 that will be Bill's money to spend to focus on increasing diversity recruitment. Continue on with this slide. Next thing, just note at the bottom, our total administrative component is increasing by a total of $533,000. As we get into the program component, this slide will be, or this presentation will be available online for you to take a deeper look at. And please, we always say, give us a call with any questions that you may have. So you notice on the line, right under special education, 2250-100, we're seeing a decrease there of $106,000. That's primarily from breakage. In that area of the budget, we have 3 special ed teachers and 2 speech teachers that are retiring that have very high salaries, and we've budgeted, a much lower incoming salary in that area. Also, the BOCES special ed line, the 2250-490, you see a pretty significant increase there. We've looked at the historicals of that line, and we feel very comfortable that we're able to reduce that down to $3.2 million. That is one area of the budget that it's kind of hard to judge at this point. We've spent, just a few years ago, we spent, I believe, $3.7 million in that area. However, the last 2 years, we've spent less than that. So we're comfortable with going to 3.2 next year. This line, just to note, the 2815-100, you'll see that's nurses and LPNs. That line is going up about $48,000. You'll see on the board agenda tonight, there was 2 LPNs appointed, I believe, for IEP mandates. So that'll take care of those positions. Moving forward, this covers transportation, 5,500, 400. Our contractual, that is our main line for transportation. We've taken a really good look at this and we're comfortable that we can reduce this significantly next year. We feel comfortable with $5.9 million there. This again, we try to budget as tight as we can, leaving a little bit of wiggle room if we need it, if we do need to add a couple runs, but based on where we're at this year, based on what we're projecting for next year, we're pretty comfortable that this is achievable for us. Our revenue summary, overall, our appropriated fund balance is $2.9 million. Our transfer from debt service, $200,000 for the published information. There is a debt service fund that has $800,000 in it. Working with our fiscal advisors, we've come up with a plan to bring that money back to benefit the taxpayers of the district. So they've proposed a schedule. Next year, there'll be a $200,000 transfer in, and then there'll be further transfers over the next few years. Our tax levy at the 1.96 will be $66,491,860. Our state aid is currently estimated at $42,438,000. We are kind of anxiously awaiting the state budget when that gets approved to see if that will increase at all. And then we have really 2 options. We can decrease the appropriated fund balance, which would be our recommendation, or decrease the tax levy. But it's we're just waiting to hear what we end up doing with, or what the state ends up doing with their budget. But overall, tax levy is 57%, state aid 36%, and all of the revenue 7%. Here's a little bit, this is the slide I showed last week as well. We've included the appropriated fund balance on the bottom. The year-over-year decrease, appropriated fund balance, 4.2 million to 2.9 million. We are in a very good place with fund balance now that we are able to use it for one-shot items that will not be necessarily need to be in the following year's budget. So for example, we have 2 plow trucks and a plumbing van that is needed by our Buildings and Grounds Department. Those vans are kind of earmarked to be paid for by fund balance. So it's not going to be a recurring expense. We buy them this year, we won't necessarily need to buy 2 new plow trucks next year. And then as well, 1.5 million of that is that transferred to the capital fund to decrease borrowing. Here's just another breakdown of our appropriated fund balance and our appropriated reserves. You see, obviously, back in 2018-19, we went from 2 million to 2.4 million in fund balance plus $1 million in reserves. Then we had the COVID years, and as I explained, transportation aid is all wonky because transportation aid is an expense-based aid, and it's based on the expense that you've had. And during the COVID shutdown, we weren't running buses. And so that is really why we had to apply extra fund balance to get us to a point where now we're pretty much back to normal going forward next year. So $2.95 million. Keep in mind, 1.5 of that is the transfer of the fund balance. And like I said before, we are in a very good place where we're going to be able to use that for one-shot items for the athletic equipment as well. Plus to get some projects done, to replace the stadium scoreboard, and the storefront entrance here will be a transfer of fund balance into the capital project fund. Here we go to just replace the stadium scoreboard, which is over 34 years, well past its useful life. It is definitely time to do this. The other advantage to do this is that multiple sports are now played on that field, that will be able to use soccer, lacrosse, and I think they may even use it for timing for track. So it's definitely needed. That is on its last legs, as Mr. Steger talked last time. And then I know it's time to repair this front door here. There's really no good time to do it. It's a fairly costly investment, but we have to maintain our buildings and our facilities going forward, and this is really just beyond repair, so we have to do it. Just a reminder, and I'm going to talk about it next on the agenda, there are 3 seats open for election for a seat on the Board of Education. Each is for a 3-year term commencing July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Nominating petitions are available by contacting the district clerk, Ellen McGoldrick. That's our contact information. And our next meeting would be on April 19th, where the board will be asked to adopt the 22-23 budget to be presented to the taxpayers. Also at that meeting, we will ask the board to approve the SECRA resolutions. That allows us to begin going forward with the stadium scoreboard replacement and the door replacement here at central office. We will need to do that. Tom Ritzenthaler will be here to answer any questions you may have about those projects. On April 18th, the nominating petitions are due to the district clerk. May 9th, the budget hearing here at central office. Is that 6 p.m., I believe, or 5 p.m.? 6 o'clock. And on May 17th, budget vote at the high school. And that is it. So if there's any questions, we will take them, and can follow up with you with any questions that I can't answer here on the spot.
The excess fund balance is attributed to buildings being shut down for periods.
Yeah, we did run some surpluses over those last 2 years, just, because it was just different.
Yeah.
Part of it is obviously COVID had a huge impact. The other part of it is just being conservative and not spending on things that we don't need. Yes, we are over 4%, so we have to come up with a plan to address it. Mm-hmm.
So just a couple of things. Great job, by the way. I think the fact that we have this money and looking down the road, I think is great.
Thank you.
I want more. So I would ask that we look at the fund balance and see if maybe some of that can be used to help the tax levy a little bit, maybe some of that service as well. Because like the 400,000 savings is over what period of time? That's a long time away, right?
So it would be decreased borrowing costs over the life of that, which is typically around 15 or 18 years. So, yep.
So I would just ask if we can maybe do something there to help out.
So you're saying increase it?
Towards the tax levy to help bring us down.
The tax levy down a little bit?
And not just to look at it is what I'm saying, because I think it's great what we're doing with that money, but I think if we can give some back, that'd be more back, that'd be good. Another thing that I'd be curious about, I know we talked in the past about a security and safety officer.
Yes.
So I would be interested in knowing like what, and not now, but what the cost of that is and what that would look like, right? So like.
So right now this budget includes a $100,000 allocation for security. Now that may be a coordinator of safety that we bring in to kind of evaluate what we have and make recommendations going forward, or it may be used to go to a security-based contractor, which is something that we would have to decide as a cabinet that we would want to do, and then also present it to the union and have some discussions with them as well.
Okay. And this might be premature, but just what that looks like, right? Somewhere between like tall water and rainbow, right? I just want to make sure that, I want militia in the hallways, so just,
I'm trying to act professional here, giving a presentation to the public, and you're going to make me die laughing.
But, so I'm just curious what that looks like, like.
We can certainly do some recon on some other districts. Cornwall is one that has used the model. They have security officers in each of their buildings, high school, middle school, and elementary. Security officers provide after-school services for large events. We could get you some information on staffing and what their roles actually are in the buildings. Yeah.
I would say, if you don't mind, just our early discussion, because we've been talking about it. We think probably the first thing is to get somebody to oversee the whole thing. Someone with law enforcement experience. Monroe Woodbury always had a model, but they just hired a retired. He was the colonel of the state police. He's overseeing it. And then that person would evaluate, either train the people we have or go to an outside. So, but I just give you a little bit of a discussion with that.
And then just one other thing, you mentioned about field trips.
Yes.
in the past. And what's the cost on that?
I have to follow up with you on it, but we built in an allocation for each student to go on a field trip, plus include the transportation. I can follow up with you, I don't want to give you the number off the top of the head, but I believe it's around $35, $40 or so for an elementary student.
I actually have one question, if I can. I know, that's why I'm asking, I want you to yell at me. Can you rewind back to, I think it's an administrative budget, there's the BOCES section?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was not administrative. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, look here. It says somewhere with a big increase in the BOCES line.
Yes.
Oh,
I think I know what you're talking about, this one right here?
Yeah.
It's $1484.90. So this is to transition over to a BOCES service to help us out with district-wide communications. So this would be a person that could be here 3 days a week and maybe on call 5 days a week from Capital Region BOCES. They provided the service for us in the past. It's really quite valuable. These people are usually skilled in communications writing, and the advantage to using a BOCES service is we would have access to anything that they published for any of their component districts. So, hot topics of the day, any special projects we wanted them to work on, special video projects, who knows, but.
And did you also say that we were increasing our our CTEC seats this year?
Yes, we're adding 10 additional CTEC spots next year. It's part of the plan that we kind of came up with this year to increase. We used the budget for 100. This year we have 110. Next year, if this budget is approved, we'll get to 120. And then our plan is to go another 10 next year. We'll be up to 130, which is just about every student that would like to go. And at least we would like to be able to provide the opportunity for every student that would like to go.
Because I know, especially after going to BOCES and seeing that,
Yeah,
it's a good place to put our money,
Yep.
for sure.
it's very good. It's about $12,000 a year to send a student to BOCES. So it's not cheap, but
It's not cheap, but yeah, it's worthwhile. Yeah, for sure.
I have one more question. Does that include school supplies again?
Yes. Well, we don't budget for it. So the way that it's worked the last couple of years is we've looked at our supply money in other areas of the budget this time of year to kind of see where we're at. And if we have the money that we can help the community out and buy supplies, we've done so. So it's not a direct budget line. I can tell you this year we are going to do it again. We've already
I
started.
think that people really appreciate.
Yeah. I think we should be able to continue.
What about the breakfast and lunch thing?
So the recent news on free breakfast and lunch is that program will end in June. And that's because I guess the federal government has not continued it at this point. So that will have an impact on us as
We'll
well.
go back to it.
Yeah.
I think I'm done now.
Any other
I
questions?
think you can go.
All right, thank you,
All
Brad.
right, thank you very much.
Nice job, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Well done.
Next is